The architect of universal peace, Jan Smuts, South Africa's philosopher, mentor to Winston Churchill, father of the United Nations and champion of holism. 2. The architect of universal peace, Jan Smuts, South Africa's philosopher, mentor to Winston Churchill, father of the United Nations and champion of holism, by Chris Kanyane, South Africa National Library Online. Copyright 2024 by Chris Kanyane, all rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form or by any means, including photocopying, recording, or other electronic or mechanical methods, without the prior written permission of the publisher. 4. Introduction. These two sons of South Africa, a bond beyond race, Jan Smuts and Nelson Mandela, two of South Africa's most extraordinary sons, have more in common than their surface-level differences might suggest. Their lives, philosophies, and leadership styles speak to a deeper connection, one that transcends racial boundaries and challenges the notion that skin color defines character. These men, coming from vastly different eras and circumstances, both embody the spirit of selflessness, patriotism, and a deep-rooted commitment to the welfare of South Africa and the world. Their legacies tell us that true. Leadership is not about race, but about values, purpose, and service. Both Smuts and Mandela were super patriots, men who loved their country with a passion that went far beyond personal gain or ambition. They never sought wealth, power, or status for themselves. There is not a trace of selfishness in their lives. No hint of greed, avarice, or ostentatious consumption. Neither man amassed personal wealth nor pursued material comfort at the expense of others. Instead, they devoted their lives to the pursuit of social justice, to the greater good, and to the betterment of their beloved South Africa. Both were driven by a sense of duty, by the deep belief that they were servants of a greater cause, their people, their country, and the world at large. In their humility and their commitment to public service, both Smuts and Mandela possessed the common touch. Despite their towering achievements, neither man lost his connection to the everyday struggles of ordinary people. They walked among their people, understood their needs, and devoted their lives to finding solutions to the challenges their nation faced. In this way, they became not just leaders, but servants of the Republic. Their concern was always for the people, never for themselves. 6. No one could accuse Smuts or Mandela of being consumed by avarice, greed, or personal indulgence. These men, both legends in their own right, remained grounded, never allowing the temptations of power or wealth to cloud their vision for a better South Africa. Their mission was clear: to serve, to uplift, and to leave their country better than they found it. They both stood tall, not in their pursuit of personal glory, but in their unyielding dedication to the greater good. A parting of ways, misunderstanding Jan Smuts. Yet, despite their shared values, there is a point where these two great sons of South Africa part ways, at least in the eyes of history. It has been repeated 1,000,000 times, perhaps even 1,000,000,000, that Jan Smuts offered tacit support to racism. This accusation has been levied at him for decades, but it remains a surface-level rhetoric, one that fails to delve deeper into the man's true character, his principles, and his vision for South Africa. Smuts was not a racist, nor was he an advocate of apartheid. not by any stretch of the imagination. How could a man who lost so resoundingly to the National Party in 1948, the very architects of apartheid, be accused of supporting the very system that rejected him? If Smuts had been a supporter of apartheid, why would he have been defeated by those who sought to institutionalize racial segregation and oppression? The truth is that Smuts, though imperfect and sometimes politically out of step with the fervour of his time, was not a man who believed in racial hatred or division. In fact, he outright rejected the idea that black people should be rounded off and placed back into their traditional kraals, calling such a notion insane. Smuts' opponents, the hardline apartheid supporters, were vocal in their demands for a strict, oppressive racial hierarchy. Yet Smuts, while perhaps not as radical in his opposition to apartheid as Mandela would later be, did not share their vision of division and racial suppression. Instead, Smuts believed in the slow, deliberate evolution of society. He understood that change could not be forced overnight, that racial harmony and integration would come with time and patience. His was the path of gradualism, a belief in evolution over revolution. Smuts, like Charles Darwin, whose intellectual legacy loomed large at Cambridge where they both studied, understood that societies evolve slowly. He believed that South Africa too would evolve, moving toward a place of racial harmony, not through violence or sudden upheaval, but through steady, thoughtful change. He was, after all, the father of the concept of holism, the idea that the world and all life within it is interconnected. But to Smuts, this interconnectedness was not just a scientific principle, it was a guiding force in his understanding of society and race relations. 8. A good man misunderstood. Smuts should be judged fairly. Those who knew him best, people like Winston Churchill, Woodrow Wilson, and other towering figures of the 20th century, knew him as a good man, a man whose heart was in the right place. His defeat by apartheid's architects does not make him complicit in their crimes. It marks him as a man who was out of step with the forces of extremism that were taking over his beloved country. He was a leader who advocated gradual integration and opposed the radical division that apartheid represented. His vision was not perfect, but his intentions were noble.